Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can hear Riley barking in the back. She's always trying to be part of these episodes. I wanted to sit down today and talk about the heaviness that we're all feeling and kind of how I've been coping in hopes that it will help you cope too. And right now in the United States, for our ocean and for our planet, we are in a shitty situation. And I don't, I want you to feel informed. I want to give you tools of how to activate around it. And I want to tell you how I've been taking care of myself and things that have really brought me so much solace and calm these last, 8 weeks. So if this is your first time here, thank you for tuning in. It's typically not this somber or advocacy focused, but I feel like it's an unignorable part of our ocean conservation journey. So let's get into it. Welcome back to Sustainability and the Sea. Okay, I'm actually going to start with a quote because it's just me and you today, no guests. And if you are really excited about the advocacy and policy stuff that I'm talking about, go listen to our last episode that was released in January with Mark Haber on how to organize effectively. The cliff notes of that are that civil disobedience is going to become more important now than ever, as well as corporate climate action, which I may not have the most faith in as a lever for change, but I do have faith in civil disobedience. So, okay, I saw this today and I was like, yes. A pattern I've noticed in people who make things happen: speed. They don't overthink, they don't overplan, and they don't wait for the perfect moment. They move. They go from an idea to action in the time it takes most to write a first draft of their plan. While others are debating, researching, and hesitating, they're learning, adjusting, and making progress. Success doesn't go to the person who had the best idea. It goes to the one who did something about it. And I really wanted to start with this because I think that there's this huge gap right now in getting a piece of information and then taking action based off that information. It's not really our fault. We're living in this time where we have access to all of the information at our fingertips and we're inundated with it. We weren't designed to have this much knowledge thrown at us. And so, especially in the hectic times right now, with a new announcement and headline coming from the Trump administration every day that's devastating, it can be hard to feel like you're doing something. But something I've learned through my journey with advocacy and policy and change making is that there's always something you can do. And no matter what the headline says, it's often one of a few things that you can do for any issue and any headline. So once you learn those 5 things that you can do to take action, it doesn't matter what the issue is because you know exactly how to be the most effective. If you're interested in all of this, I just want to give a little background really quickly on how I got interested in all of this, because I hear from you guys that you want to know more about policy. You want me to talk about policy. And to be honest, I didn't know there was a big group of you that were passionate about this part of change making. I wanted to be a marine biologist because I wanted to study and save the ocean. As I learned about all the threats to marine life and the ocean and the coastal communities that rely on the ocean, I learned that we actually had all the solutions: indigenous knowledge, community-based decision making, large-scale protections, and prioritizing the things that sustain us with clean air, clean water, and food. What was missing was that the decision makers and the lawmakers with the power to make large-scale change on any of these issues did not have the political will. Okay, so just get with me that was so devastating. Being in my early 20s and being like, wait, we have all the solutions, we know all the threats, and we know exactly what to do, and just no one's doing anything about it. And if you're waking up to that reality now, I just want to say, I see you, and come in for the ride, because our work is strategically designed around pushing leaders to have a political will. A huge piece of that is, one, getting the right leaders in office. So elections, but that's only ever so many years, if it's federally, every 2 years, if it's locally. And so when we're not in election season, we don't really have that lever to pull. And the second is changing the minds of the existing lawmakers, which is really hard to do too. But people power play a really big role in changing that. So anyway, that's how I got here. I did not think I was going to be working in ocean policy. I did not think I'd be working in community building and advocacy and power redistribution. That's how I view it, for the world that I wanted. But I see that for our ocean, it's what's preventing change. So with that being said, I'm going to give you a couple updates that have happened. I also want to let you know that we're going to talk about how I've been coping and taking care of myself, because I want to also hear how you guys are taking care of yourself. So one, I'm filming this on February 18th. So over the weekend, federal employees across the U.S. Forest Service, National Park Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Bureau of Land Management were fired. It was thousands of employees. And this is obviously devastating for our parks, for our wildlife, for our conservation initiatives. And it also is devastating because not only will we have less capacity to protect those things, but there's now likely less, because of the administration, less federal jobs for this. And candidly, and I personally think that the defunding of these areas is part of a larger plan to dismantle them entirely. So what do I mean by dismantle? I mean eliminate national parks, open them to drilling and mining. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm being alarmist, but a Senate bill is actually moving federally through Congress. I think it's called like the Protect Our Forests Act. It has like a very misleading greenwashing name, and it's moving. It hasn't been passed. Moving means it's like being voted on and going through committee hearings and things like that. But it's really terrifying to see what could be happening if we don't stand up and stop it. So that happened. The second is, maybe you guys heard me celebrate on some of our other social media channels that one of Biden's last moves as president was to protect our coastal waters from drilling forever in perpetuity. On the first, that was an amazing celebration, and Futureswell was actually part of the sign-on letter that was delivered to the Biden administration in the fall. Trump signed an executive order to override that, and he signed a lot of executive orders. And this is where I'm talking about where it can be really alarming to see these headlines, because he signed these huge executive orders that are likely going to be challenged in courts and potentially not upheld. Our court system is very, at least at the highest level, really biased towards him, but depending on what the courts do will determine whether or not his executive orders go through. So just because he signed an executive order doesn't mean that it's reality yet, okay? And I say that because I just saw today that Surfrider and Environment or Justice and a coalition of groups sued the Trump administration for the first environmental lawsuit of his administration against his executive order to reopen coastal waters for offshore drilling. So there are really big players that we can support. You can go be a member at Surfrider for $5 a year. You can sign up for text messages from Earth Justice, which I get, and donate to them directly. These big players that activate legally. I'm not a lawyer. I can't be offering that level of expertise to the movement, but we can support the people who are. So that gave me a lot of hope. I also wanted to give you guys some other pieces of hope before we get into this next phase, because I want to be like honest about, while things might not be looking great in the US, like ocean conservation is still happening. It's happening all over the world. So the Marshall Islands just established their largest and first marine protected area. It's a sanctuary across atolls that are critically important for sharks and seabirds and migratory species. And it's the first of many. The president said in the press release, it's the first of many. The Marshall Islands are some of like the most pristine areas in the Pacific. And so this is a really big deal. The second thing is that Papahanaumokuakea, the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, was designated as a sanctuary, and it's going to go through. It can't be revoked. It can't be taken away. So we're safe in that piece of it. And then I already shared with you guys the the Surfrider news about like the lawsuit to challenge the Trump administration. But also I wanted to share that beyond the United States, we've also had other countries taking a stand for nature, not necessarily open ocean, but coastal ocean. So Ecuador's constitutional court ruled that coastal marine ecosystems have legal rights. Sick. Super awesome. This is like a larger campaign that's referred to as Rights for Nature, giving rights to nature so that you can sue people who then harm nature. Those who harm nature, the legal term is now called ecocide. So it's actually because the legal protections are for coastal marine ecosystems, it's like legal backing to require Ecuador to do more to protect their coastal marine ecosystems. So that was awesome. And yeah, I think that was all I wanted to share with you guys. So there's still amazing progress being done. We're working really hard around the clock in Hawaii on community-based initiatives that I can talk more about in another episode. But just know that when the federal administration isn't taking action, it doesn't mean the world isn't. And it definitely doesn't mean local communities are. Okay, so the next part of it is I want to talk a little bit about those tools that you can employ and that you can just invest in learning. And once you have them, you don't have to be paralyzed by headlines when they hit you. And then I'm going to wrap by just talking about a fun announcement that I've had that's kind of ties into this, that Futureswell's been working on behind the scenes for months that I'm excited to share with you. Okay. And this one is going to get a little granular, but I just want to say that I went to a community event on Monday, President's Day, that had national protests, by the way, civil disobedience, national protests against the mass cuts that DOJ and the Trump administration are doing to everyone, impacting everyone. So on that day, it was a boycott day too. So you don't spend any money. I went to this community event called Civics is Sexy. It was put on by this nonprofit locally here called Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii. They do a lot of work on plastic pollution, large-scale community beach cleanups. You should follow them. Their content is sick. And they put it together because they wanted to create a workshop for first-time people who want to participate in advocacy to learn the basics of local participation in civics. So that's where I've actually got the inspiration for this episode, which is going to focus on federal activation. But it was focused specifically for participating in passing legislation in Hawaii. So it was really inspiring. We had a representative, a senator there, where people got to give mock testimony, which is where you weigh in on whether a bill should be passed or opposed, and you use your personal story. And so I think that I left feeling like everybody knew and had the tools. And so I want you guys to leave this episode doing it. Hi, Riley, come join the episode. Instead of barking in the corner. You guys know my rescue dog, Riley, right? She's turning 10 next month. Hi, Bugga. Okay, so there are the 5 ways to make change. And I just want to say that I subscribe to a belief that in the systems that we currently operate in, unfortunate, outdated, exploitative systems, the 3 primary ways that I view making change are through finance, so deploying large-scale capital to a solution, policy, passing laws across government levels, and storytelling, media, and culture. Storytelling and media inform culture, right? So a good example of storytelling is Blackfish caused people to be intolerant to cetacean captivity. Plastic straw video of sea turtle caused straw bans. Which then, that was another thing. Trump's plastic straw ban I'm like, that was just such a rage bait headline, because the plastic straws are literally like, it's just a signal that the plastics industry and the petrochemical companies are going to ramp up production under Trump. And it was like a signal to the plastic industry being like, don't worry guys, like I got you, like we got this, which is devastating considering that plastic is everywhere. I don't need to go on a soapbox about plastic, but it is in our breast milk, our clouds, our reproductive organs, our fish, our food, our wildlife. It's crazies, and it's causing health impacts that we're just starting to understand that impact our hormones, our endocrine system, our reproductive system, whatever. I'm not a health professional, but I have done my research on this for years, and we're only going to learn more about the way plastic is impacting human health, because ocean health is human health, is planet health, is people health. Anyway, so that's one. Those three buckets are kind of how I think we make change. So we're focusing today on the policy piece of that. And the policy piece of that, there's a lot of ways to engage, right? But we are opening our phones, at least I'm imagining this is how it's going down for you guys. You're opening your phones, you're seeing these incredible people you look up to, these thought leaders, these influencers be like, oh my God, we need to protect our parks. I'm just using this as an example because it's the one that happened over the weekend, but it literally keeps happening. And it's going to keep happening. So we need to be prepared and not freak out every time, right? And you're like, oh my God, we need to protect our parks. And then you see people send you to petitions where you add your name and you're like, what do I do? And then they're saying, call your reps. And you're like, I don't know how to do that. And then they're saying, send this letter. And you're like, okay. And so then you do a bunch of action alerts. And I want to tell you that this is how I feel that those things rank in order of mattering from my policy making experience. One, you do need to do something when you see that. You do not need to. You should close your phone after you do something and go outside and spend time with loved ones and take care of yourself. But you do need to take that extra step of action. Sharing it plays a little role into the storytelling and amplification of the initiative, but do not stop there. That is step one. Petitions are not the most useful tool. The most useful tool are some of those action alerts where you like type in your name and your address and it sends like a pre-filed letter out. Because that's actually what those tools do, is they send that letter to your elected official using your address that you put in. So that's really helpful. That is, if you have 2 minutes, that is what I would suggest you to do. If you have 5 minutes, the real way to add power to so like the least powerful would be adding your name to a petition, or the least powerful would be doing nothing. Then it would be sharing on your social media so that your friends see it. Then it would be adding your name to a petition. Then it would be doing these action alerts where you see a letter and you see like sending out and you add your address. And then the most effective one is contacting your representative directly. And this is where we get into, once you have this information, it just becomes easy. So we're going to find out who our representatives are today. There's tools to do this, but to be honest, you just need one. And I'll put it in the show notes. So all I do is I go to google.com, or Ecosia, a search engine that plants trees, not sponsored, find my representative, USA.gov. And the USA.gov tool has you enter your address. And then what it actually does is you have to give like the detail address, not just your zip code, is it gives you your local officials. So I was given my mayor, my prosecuting attorney, your state officials, governor, lieutenant governor. We have Office of Hawaiian Affairs here, state senator and state rep. So the people who govern laws locally here. And then your federal, so president, vice president. And then my senators are Brian Schatz and Macy Hirono, and my representative is Jill Takuda. I have 2 senators and 1 representative. So those are the federal people. The next 4 years, I would say, all of these are important, and I would really highly recommend adding all of these people to your contact list, because on this USA.gov list, if I open Jill Takuda, it says, it literally has her phone number, it has her Facebook, it has her Twitter, it has her website. So you can have this just open on your phone, but you can just call right now. So I'm going to call. Oh my gosh, I'm nervous. It's so silly. I do this all the time, but it's nerve wracking. But I'm going to call Jill Takuda. I live in a blue state. I live in a very progressive state. I live in a state that values the environment. And so this is a little less influential than those of you who live in red states. If you live in a red state, this action toolkit I'm equipping you with right now is probably the most important thing that you can do these next 4 years. So what's important to me right now? what's important to me is our monuments, our marine monuments, and our national parks. So I'm just going to leave her a voicemail because it's past working hours in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to ask her to please work with colleagues along the aisle to do everything in her power to stop the revoking of monuments that keep our oceans clean and keep our, lands clean and access to public lands. Okay. I'm doing it. I'll put her on speaker. And this is the scariest part, but...
Aloha, this is Congresswoman Jill Tokuda of Hawaii's 2nd District. Mahalo for taking the time to call me at my Washington, D.C. office. You have called during non-business hours or all our lines are busy.
You can do this if you don't want to. If you want to just leave a voicemail.
Please leave your name, the best contact information to reach you, the reason for your call, and we will get back to you. Thank you for your understanding. Ahoy ho!
Aloha, Representative Tokuda. My name's Carissa Cabrera. I live in your district. I'm calling because I'm feeling so concerned about the federal landscape to revoke access or to revoke monuments and defunding and divestment of our public lands and national parks. I know you share those values of caring for our place and environment, and I worry that the loss of federal jobs is an indicator and a signal of a plan to dismantle public lands and monuments. And obviously, marine monuments are very important to me as someone who works in ocean conservation. And so I just am calling. I know you're probably already working on this, but just to urge you to work with your colleagues across the aisle to the best that you can to find common ground on protecting public lands and nature, especially in a time when it is so vulnerable. Thanks for hearing my call. I know you're busy and you don't need to call back. I just wanted this to be heard. Mahalo. Okay. I love Jill Tokuda. Very respectful. But I will say, even if you hate your representative, being respectful is usually helpful. And the other tip that I have is to give a personal story. So I included in there that I am an ocean conservationist, that maybe there isn't a bill, but I wish I had the bill. I didn't prepare accordingly. I would recommend that you do. But that was just a general call. You can also call specifically, like, please do what you can to stop the Protect Our Forests Act because it doesn't protect our forests. Okay? The point is, if you have this, if you did this with me and you do it in the show notes and you have your federal senators and your federal representatives in your phone, you can just call them when you get these crazy emails or crazy social media posts where you're like, what the fuck are people doing right now? This is crazy. You just call them. Because at the end of the day, they listen to their constituents, they listen to people with real stories, and you voicing it is the person you're showing them how you feel. And guess what? A lot of these people want this to be their career. So please go to usa.gov, find your representative, and add them to your phone so that you can talk to them. And I think I said this, but her voicemail was going is, if you're phone shy, just do it after they close. Write your note before. At the end of the day, the way this seems to work is staff members come to work the next day, they listen to the voicemail, they log what the topics are, they log how many people called about the topic, and they go and then they share with Representative Tokuda, 18 people called about the monuments, this is a huge issue, and she says, that's not surprising to me, but you're right, I need to prioritize. Like, not surprising me because I have an environmental constituent base. So I hope this wasn't too complicated. Thank you for hearing how this toolkit works, because at the end of the day, so much of these action alerts were designed by organizations that just want you to do what I just did. They're trying to make it easier for you to do that. That's why it's one click. That's why you enter their letter. That's why they write what the letter says. So if you just know how to do this, you can eliminate the middleman and be far more effective in your messaging by giving a personal story. Because yes, it's very powerful when 30,000 people use the Patagonia Action Alert to send this letter that they drafted that's really strategic. But they know that was a form letter. Like, the staff knows when they receive it in their email inbox. So, like, it's not as weighted as a personal story and a personal constituent. So the other tool, the last tool I want to give you is, it's called fivecalls.org. A lot of my content creator friends use it. It's more for general activists, and I know that a lot of people who listen to me are ocean or environmental activists, but if you go to fivecalls.org, what it does, I'm doing it right now just so I can describe it, is you give them your location, and then you actually signal like what's important to you. So, and these are updated. It's like a very easy mobile tool. Like it says, protect your data from Doge, which is like the Elon Musk agency, or fight the constitutional crisis or whatever. Protect the rights of people with disabilities. Protect the mission of the Environmental Protection Agency. So I'm going to click that one. And it gives a little background about the issue. Right. It gives a lot of background. It tells me who my contacts are. It says Jill Takuda, Maisie Hirono. It gives all of their phone numbers, and it actually gives, oh wow, this is actually a good tool. I'll put it in the show notes. It gives a template for the issue. Hi, my name is Carissa. I'm calling to demand oversight hearings to push back the Trump administrations to undermine the EPA mission at this time. At the tipping point, thanks for your consideration. So this is helpful because it seems like Five Calls is doing that strategy work to figure out what's helpful right now. So calling for oversight hearings. So really, you and your friends can just do some Five Calls together at your next girls' night. And then after your call, share the results to show your next representative. So then it's like, so you call all three. It's really awesome, and I highly recommend doing it. So you can also support Five Calls with a donation if you want. Okay. That was the bulk of the episode. I'm sorry if I was a little long-winded. I just want you guys to feel equipped, and I want you to feel like you can do something, because truthfully, this administration wants us to feel powerless and do nothing, and we're not going to stand for it. Okay, we're literally not standing for it. And the way to not stand for it is not by sharing social media posts. It is by calling, okay, and participating in the action alerts. I also want to say that if you follow me on Instagram, Carissa and Climate, I have like a broadcast channel, which was like an Instagram tool that got rolled out last year, and it's called the Ocean Climate Collective. I think there's like 400 of you in it. And I basically just like send these in there. Like not like Five Calls, but I'm like, hey guys, the Wilderness Society is organizing to save marine sanctuaries right now. Add your name right here. So I'm also like, can just send you it directly. So you can join that broadcast channel and get these delivered to your DMs or whatever. Just, I try, it's not spammy. I do like one a week. It's been more recently, but yeah. And then the reason I wanted to make this episode, even though I know it might not have the highest viewership, it might not reach most amount of people, I know it's going to reach those of you that really do want to do something. And I just want to wrap by saying, before the announcement, is by saying like that the future that we want to build is not convenient. It's actually so inconvenient to build it. It requires time, energy, discomfort. It requires taking so much energy out of your day that was supposed to go to other things to do things like call. But it's not going to be built unless we build it. Do you know what I mean? And building the future we want is really inconvenient. And you best be damned if I'm going to fucking let this country fall into the shackles of fascism. Straight up. So I'm not letting our marine protected areas get rolled back, and I'm not letting our monuments get rolled back, and I will do everything in my power to not do that, and I'm just inviting you to do it with us, with these tools. So, sorry, dropped an F-bomb in this episode, really shouldn't have done that. Okay, and then, exciting news. So, obviously we know that content creators are the thought leaders and influencers of our generation, and it's what you guys know that is why I started building a TikTok and social media. You know that's why I believe in content creators sharing this type of thing, or these types of actions. And Futureswell has been working behind the scenes to convene ocean climate creators on social media into a coalition that can activate their digital audiences on policy campaigns in progress internationally, federally, locally, in their backyards. There's 25 creators. We're going to be announcing and sharing them in March. And collectively, all of us have millions and millions of members in our online communities that are looking to take action. And the power of that, oh my God, I have chills. The power of that in this day and age, in this moment under this administration, can really not be understated. Like, we can shape the ocean conservation movement working together. And if we're connected with these policy campaigns, we can activate entirely for the future we want together, collectively. We will take one initiative together after another. We will make progress. We will get wins on them. And then we'll go to the next one together in a coordinated and strategic way. I'm so excited to share them with you. Thanks for supporting. In the same vein of the future's not convenient, I have this quote that I want to wrap us with. I'm sorry, this is such a soapbox and emo episode. This is who I am, guys, by the way, just so you know, this is what my soul is. It's this episode. Okay. Everyone hates the protest in front of them. Too loud, too disruptive, too much. They hate the people that are sharing too much on social media, the people begging you to come to events and protest with them. They hate the loudness and the screaming. But they love the clean air that it fought for, the weekends it secured, the labor rights movement, the rights it carved into law for everyone. Comfort is built from the courage of those who refuse to be comfortable and refuse to stay silent. Because today's disruption is tomorrow's justice for everyone. I'm gonna cry. I know you guys care about the planet, and I know that you guys care about protecting it. And my literal life's mission is to make it easier for you to bring all of that, those big emotions that make you care, and make it easier to do the protecting. So thanks for being here. Love you guys. Bye.